In this story, a man named Lazarus takes terrorism to new heights when he threatens to annihilate the universe. His situation involves the collision between matter and antimatter. Antimatter is a particle like a proton or an electron whose charge is reversed. When equal particles of matter and antimatter come into contact with each other, both particles are obliterated and huge amounts of energy are released, maybe even to the point where the universe explodes. So be very, very careful. Do not, I repeat, do not play with matter and antimatter at the same time, at least not at home.
The whole Star Trek phenomenon is overwhelming. That's why when somebody says, what did it, I just have to say magic.
Unquestionably.
There's no way to explain this. You can't say it will never happen again. I know for a fact this kind of thing will never happen again. It was a once in a lifetime. We were dealing with a very bombastic situation, which was the 60s, and we were able to deal with it. And remember, we were the only show in town.
I have been able to ascertain one fact. Though the effect, whatever it was unquestionably widespread. It was strongest here, on the planet beneath us.
So just from that point of view, that's why it can never happen again. And it is the most incredible phenomenon, I think, that's ever happened. Obviously, think about our 20th century mythology. Star Trek is our 20th century mythology.
When I answer these questions, I think about the themes of the show, I think about the subject matter, I think about the fact that it's in the future, so it's not dated. I think about the fact that that some of the issues are still current issues.
All I've heard from you is double talk, lies, threats, accusations that don't hold an ounce of water. Now you tell me, how does it present a danger to my ship?
I think that we appeal to various generations because little kids can watch the show and enjoy it because there's action, there's monsters, and there's spaceships. And the same person sees the shows maybe 6 or 8 or 10 years later and suddenly becomes conscious of other values in the shows that they might not have been conscious of when they were little kids, so they can revisit the shows comfortably.
I've considered all the alternatives. My best guess is it could be a prelude to invasion.
People talk about legends, you know, and the people that sit beside me on airplanes talk about legends, and you know, and it's just unbelievable. And they say, you know, you taught the whole nation about space. It's like been given an honorary doctorate of engineering. And the reason that I have it, according to the president of the engineering school, is that people who desire to become an engineer have to write down who they thought of, and they thought of me. And that's fantastic. What a fabulous honor.
This is not the first Star Trek episode to explore other dimensions. Mirror, Mirror follows the lead of the alternative factor and presents us with an evil Kirk. He commands a starship with an evil crew, all of whom are members of an evil federation. In the Tholian web, 2 universes intersect. The Enterprise is threatened with extinction in our universe as it begins to materialize in a parallel one. Writer Frederick Brown, who wrote Martians Go Home, one of the funniest science fiction stories you'll ever read, probably had the last word on parallel universes. In his book, What Mad Universe, he set forth the theory that if a universe, any universe, could be imagined, it therefore existed. Now imagine that you're president of the galaxy.
Star Trek is an entertainment piece, which is an attempt to deal with, in an entertaining way, with some of the great questions about humanity.
I fail to comprehend your indignation, sir. I've simply made the logical deduction that you are a liar.
Dealing with some of the great issues that have been questions for mankind always.
I point out that a hole in the universe or in a simple container can either allow the contents to escape
or what is outside to enter.
In the 60s, there was a very popular piece that I recorded. I think it was called Desiderata. And one of the lines in Desiderata, as I recall, goes, whether or not it is clear to you, the universe is unfolding as it should. I'm a great believer in a certain kind of destiny. We like to think that we have some control over certain elements in our lives, and in many cases we do, and in many cases we don't. Certain things are as they will be. And I'm a believer that if one can find a kind of a peace and a centeredness and a way to live through that process, it can be a great ride.
This is the first Star Trek episode that deals with the parallel universe, but once again we're examining duality. Matter and antimatter are merely metaphors, in this case for good and evil. In The Enemy Within, we saw that good and evil cannot exist without each other. Kirk needed both sides of his personality to be whole and survive. In this episode, good and evil cannot exist at the same time in the same place, more like Jekyll and Hyde. Obviously, there's much more to be explored about duality.